Hi everyone, and welcome to this educational video. We're students from Tec de Monterrey Vallalto. My name is Joel Sepúlveda de La Paz, and my ID is A01177148. This is my team.
Hi, my name is Jesus Lozano. My ID number is A01176908.
My name is Edgar Martinez, and my ID number is A01167870.
My name is Rogelio Flores and my ID number is A01176709. In this video we will be talking about the Chernobyl nuclear disaster in 1986, also about how exponential growth function works and how are these two topics related to each other. Why it hasn't been possible to contain the nuclear energy and substances generated by the nuclear reactor's explosion in Chernobyl in 1986?
Survey work on the shelter was carried out in 1998 and 1999, while about 200 tons of highly radioactive material remains deep within, and this poses an environment hazard until it is better contained.
What is that makes nuclear energy to be so dangerous?
Meltdowns like the ones in Fukushima or Chernobyl released enormous amounts of radiation into the surrounding communities, forcing hundreds of thousands of people to evacuate. Many of them may never come back. There is still no safe, reliable solution for dealing with the radioactive waste produced by nuclear plants.
Joel, why is it said that nuclear reaction generates an exponential growth of the atoms?
Nuclear chain reactions. The concept behind nuclear reactors and nuclear weapons. Each uranium nucleus that undergoes fission produces multiple neutrons, each of which can be absorbed by adjacent uranium atoms, causing them to fission in turn.
When will all the nuclear energy and substances released by this explosion be dissolved? Can they cleaned out completely?
The region today is widely known as one of the world's most unique wildlife sanctuaries, thriving population of wolves, deer, lynx, beaver, eagles, and other animals. There are animals with high levels of cesium in their bodies, but that's not to suggest that the area has returned to normal, or it will at any point in near future, because of the long-lived radiation in the region surrounding the former Chernobyl nuclear power plant. The area won't be safe for human habitation for at least 20,000 years. Now we're going to talk about exponential functions. Exponential functions are the functions that has the characteristic of having the x value in the exponent. The basic formula of exponential functions is f of x equals b to the x,
in which the reference point passes through the 0, 1 coordinate. The domain is always a set of real numbers. It means from negative infinity to infinity. The range is depending on the asymptote of the equation, and you just have to give a value to x in order to get the value of y. The natural form of the exponential function is y equals e to the x. We will do a few examples to show you how this function works out.
we have this example, f of x equals 2 to the x, in which the asymptote is 0, the coordinate is 0, 1, the domain is from negative infinite to infinite, and the range is from 0 to infinite.
Now we can see that if we plug in a value to x, for example 2, we will get 1, 2. And if we just leave it like that, we'll get the 0, 1.
Now I'm gonna show you some examples in real life of exponential decay and growth. Here we have a graph that shows the radioactivity decay of sodium. And if we see if the time increases, the count rate goes down. Also here is the same for carbon, and it's the same. If the time increases, the percent of radioactivity goes down. And here we have an example of population. Over the time, the population is growing, and that's an example of exponential growth function. Thank you.
Nuclear power is cheap and limited energy. Chernobyl was the newest of its plant, but it only lasted 1 hour and 24 minutes. The videos talk about how there are different places of the world that need cheap energy and nuclear power is a solution. And how Chernobyl is like the base where energy gets controlled and led to different places. And also how nuclear disaster created struggle for the society.
There is water that cools the reactor it come from the canal running, alongside the plant which obviously had men fishing just outside the building. At midnight, there is always a shift in the nuclear building. They didn't know, but they were about to initiate a very complex balancing act. Everything was going well, but something happened. Power levels in the reactor plummeted. They knew that it was not a part of drill, so they fixed it. And they forced water into the reactor quickly, and that made the reactor go out of balance. So they increased power and its balance again and continued, but the core started heating up. Then the preparation are complex and the test gets started. But when the start temperature go up and warning alarm just start making noises, that led them only seconds to prevent a nuclear disaster.
The extreme heat started to destroy the core, so one reactor exploded. The roof started falling. Fishermen that were around the building saw how the explosion went. They said that it was like a volcanic eruption. Firefighters go to help the people inside the building, but they didn't know they were in a nuclear reactor. So one by one started struggling and started vomiting and collapsing. At 5 in the morning, firefighters were driven to the hospital. Many of them died and others just got sick. People started going out to the nuclear disaster, but they didn't know where going. There were chemicals thrown to the building after the nuclear explosion happened.
Exponential growth is a phenomenon that occurs when the growth rate of the value of a mathematical function is proportional to the function's current value, resulting in its growth within time being an exponential function. The formula for exponential growth of a variable x at the growth rate r as the time t goes on the discrete intervals a equals b 1 plus r to the t. Exponential growth can be measured data of the future in base of rates at time. Exponential decay is the opposite, since it measures a decrease of decay. The formula of decay is A equals P 1 minus R to the T.
What are the implications of using nuclear energy? Do you consider nuclear energy to be clean energy?
The implications of using nuclear energy is that radioactive waste is still an unsolved one. The waste from nuclear energy is extremely dangerous and it has to be carefully looked after for several thousand years. The energy source for nuclear energy is uranium. Uranium is a scarce resource. Its supply is estimated to last only for the next 30 or 60 years, depending on the actual demand. It is in fact a very clean energy, but it gets dirty when humans use it in the wrong way and creates damage.
Are you aware that there is a nuclear energy plant in Mexico? Where is it? Do you think it's safe? Do you agree with the fact that there is a nuclear energy plant in your country?
The Laguna Verde nuclear plant is located in Veracruz, Mexico. It is the only one in the country, and it's good to have there since it creates a lot of cheap and clean energy. It belongs to the CFE, and they are making good use of the plant and for the benefit of people. We think it's good to have it since as said before, it was very good source of energy. Of course, if they use that energy in the way that does not affect the country. Could the Chernobyl 1986 nuclear disaster have been prevented? How? Once the explosion happened, was there any way to stop the radiation spread and its pollution? Do you think that the radioactive pollution generated by the disaster reached Mexico? What are the 4 environmental consequences of the Chernobyl 1986 disaster?
Yes, if the nuclear plant had been with safety conditions and regulations, better workers with more experience and having more preventions, it wouldn't be such a disaster. They gathered helicopters and threw chemicals at the burned building to prevent more nuclear pollution, but at that time there was nothing else to do. In order to avoid the radioactive pollution spread because of the lack of safety, they had to do it. In Mexico, we are far away of reach that level of pollution. We are not saying that Mexico is an unpolluted country, but it's far of getting into that. What are the environmental consequences in a global scale of other disasters in use of the nuclear weapons?
The use of nuclear weapons and the disaster that happened in Japan, for example, create a lot of destruction. That destruction creates pollution that is not good for the environment at all. Also, it kills a lot of natural lives as plants, animals, and in a way, it's pretty bad thing to the environment.
What do you think and feel about these consequences? What would be a solution proposal for this situation?
These consequences are vital to our world. We think it's never good to have that level of pollution in places that reach it when a disaster like that happens. Also, it's not good to use this source of energy to create weapons that can be used in many bad ways instead of creating the energy to the benefit of humans. We feel very good because it's a new way of working to create first a big research and then showing that into a video. Also because everything we did was with teammates that we have never worked before. Thank you.